announcements tonight. I just want to mention that um, on our YouTube channel on Starting Point, okay, we do have 5 podcasts we've done so far. So if you want to check them out or take a look at them, please go to the YouTube channel. Also, my lectures and things we're doing here are being recorded and they're also on Vince's Corner. So they're both on the YouTube channel and Vince's Corner, so you can check them out for there. We're really trying to work hard in our educational program. Loretta has people lined up for the month of April, and I'm up for, yeah, for the month of April, and then into the beginning of May. So, in fact, she even got me to do one, so it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to do a podcast on the spirituality of baseball and sports, so it should be interesting. Have a lot of fun with that one. Okay, I want to begin by doing a reading tonight, and I picked a reading from August the 3rd from Each Day a New Beginning, which is my favorite meditation book. You know, August 3rd. All that is necessary to make this world a better place to live in is to love. To love as Christ loved, to love as Buddha loved. To be unconditionally loved is our birthright, and we are so loved by God. Desire just such a love from one another, and we deserve it. Yet it's a human quality to look for love before giving it. Thus, many of us search intently for signs of love. Too many of us are searching rather than loving. Truly loving another means letting go of all expectations. It means full acceptance, even celebration of another's personhood. Not easy, but so rewarding to ourselves as well as to the one who is the focus of our love. Love is a balm that heals. Loving lightens our burdens, wherever they are. It invites our inner joy to emerge. But most of all, it connects us to each other. Loneliness leaves. We no longer alienate from our environment. Love is the mortar that holds the human structure together. Without the expression of love, it crumbles. Our recovery program has offered us a plan for loving others as well as ourselves. Love will come to us just as surely as we share it. Each and every expression of love I offer today will make smooth another step I take on my journey in this life. I wanted to read that because we're going to talk tonight in our codependency series on relationships and codependency. And I always enjoy giving this talk because I realize so many of us as codependents have a hard time with relationships. In fact, I have a little standing joke I always say that a lot of times we don't have relationships, we have control ships, manipulation ships, con ships, and organizational ships. It's almost like so many times in the course of our journey, we have a tendency to try to just live what I call the illusion of control. I find it interesting because I was at my 12-step meeting earlier today, and we talked a lot about the illusion of control. And I really believe it's kind of one of the ultimate areas of codependency. When it comes to relationships, because so many of us never have what I call a solid foundation for relationships, because that foundation is supposed to come from our childhood. And so as a result, so many of us, because we didn't have the basics of the foundations, basically had to live and play certain roles to be able to get through the journey of life. I've often said that so many codependents are stuck in what I call the survivor mode. We still are learning how to live, learning how to celebrate. And one of the things that kind of hinders us in that direction is so many times fear, guilt, shame, and as a result, controls a way for us to avoid having to look at those things. So what I want to do tonight is give you a little scenario. I'm going to share with you a true story of a couple I worked with quite a while ago. Actually, I didn't work with a couple. I worked with the one individual, the wife, because basically I want to give you a little bit of the scenario, how it went. And then the first 3 quarters of what I'm going to talk about tonight are a true story. But I want to give you at the end different scenarios if it could have went in this direction or that direction or the other direction. I'm using the term male and female, but this could be male and male. It could be female and female. It could be parent and child. It could be yourself and a relationship. It could be a job. It could be a lot of different things. I know on my own journey, one of the hardest relationships I had to work through and make decisions about was my journey in the priesthood. And I'll talk more about that later. And so to me, it was a relationship. It was a change process I had to go through. And so as a result, then, let me give you the example and then I'll go through the different scenarios. I want you to visualize a young boy growing up in a home where the father is extremely abusive. He's an alcoholic, a father, and basically is constantly dumping all of his own stuff on his son. He tells his son that he's worthless, that he's not worth a lot. And as a result, the son can't understand it. So he goes to his mother and he says, Mommy, how come daddy hates me so much? How come daddy's always putting me down? And mommy, because she's scared of daddy too, tells him that's not really happening. So I want you to go into the confusion of this child's mind. He's being emotionally abused and verbally abused and being told by the other parent that it isn't happening because the other parent is scared too. And so the family is living in fear and they're walking on eggs. As he grows up and goes to school, he's a fair student in school, probably anywhere between a C and maybe a higher D. He never does really well in school. He's always scared. He's always afraid. When he gets to high school, though, he finds a friend. The friend is called alcohol. And what he does is he's able to get rid of those feelings he has going on inside of him, especially the feelings of rejection and abandonment and the feelings of confusion. And as a result, what he then does is he literally goes to alcohol, takes the pain away for a little while, but unfortunately it keeps coming back. So finally, at the end of high school, they just asked him, what are you going to do after you leave school? And of course, he really has no plans. So he decides that he's going to volunteer to join the army. He's going to volunteer for Vietnam. And inside, he kind of hopes in a way he'll get killed because then maybe they'll pay attention to him as a hero. But I always warn adult children in codependence because whenever we don't deal with our issues, we make plans. He joins the army, volunteers for Vietnam, and they send him to Illinois. Now, go into his mind for a couple of minutes. He's not even worthy enough to die for his country. They don't even think he's worth it. So now he just says one thing after another. He looks at everything through negative eyes. He's living stuck in the trauma. And as a result, then everything around him becomes that whole concept of negativity. Let me leave him in Illinois for a couple of minutes. I'll go back and get him, okay? I want to describe another individual. I want to describe a young lady who is the oldest of 8 children. She is Miss Wonderful, Miss Fantastic, Miss Goody Two-Shoes. Her mother is extremely busy having kids, and she's extremely busy raising kids. So at a very young age, she becomes a little adult, and literally, now her life is centralized around children. She's a great student. She always comes through. She gets straight A's. She's an honor student. And so really, she's even eligible for a scholarship. And so she decides she's going to go to college to become a teacher. Now, it's logical. A lot of codependents do this. Her life is centralized around children. She's comfortable there. So she'll go to school, become a teacher, and once again, she'll be comfortable around children. So she's comfortable that way. Now, watch what happens. This young man comes home from Illinois on a leave of absence, and because of his abuse issues, he's like a little child. He meets Miss Goody Two-Shoes. They have a whirlwind romance, kind of a fantasy world. They end up getting married, And all of a sudden, he's happy as a lark because now maybe he can control something and this won't happen like it always happens in the past. And so they end up having four children in a short period of time. So she goes from mommy raising kids, beginning college, letting that go, and now she's raising kids. There's a name we call this, barefoot and pregnant. And so literally her life is centralized around children. But deep down inside, there's something going on inside of her because she's a very intelligent lady. She's been around. And so one day she wakes up, the kids go off to school, she's all by herself. And she says to herself, is this all there is? There's got to be more to life than this. So she has an intuitive mind. So she starts researching, starts looking around, starts getting more educated, starts watching different programs, listening to different kinds of talks and doing things in different directions. And she's really starting to enjoy herself again because her mind is becoming active again. But she's scared to tell him because she's afraid that if she tells him, he's going to get upset because he thinks everything is just perfect now. He's created this perfect little world. As time goes on, she kind of comes out of her own little closet, tells him the truth of what's going on. He gets very upset and goes through changes. Now, let me kind of share with you different scenarios of what can happen in this kind of a situation. The one scenario we pray for and we hope for is that she begins to go to therapy, begins to work on herself and make a lot of changes. And we hope and pray that he would join her so they could work on stuff together. The other scenario is that he gets scared when she starts going to therapy and gets upset. And so as a result, then, he begins to try to find out ways to bring her back. The easiest way to do this is gather the kids together, and maybe together, the five of them can bring her back to her senses. But see, in this relationship, you have to understand, not only does she have four children, she has five. She has him. And so his dependency on her is now beginning to fall apart. And as soon as that happens, all his old tapes start playing. All the old garbage starts coming up. And all of a sudden, he's starting to feel abandonment, rejection, all these things coming down. And unfortunately, in some situations, if she's going to continue growing and continue learning, and he refuses to do so, they're going to grow apart from each other. And eventually it may lead to a breakup or a divorce or something in that direction. I share this with you because I want to bring out something which is really important. In relationships, a lot of times there's codependency, and both of them, by the way, are codependent. He's searching for a family to belong to. And so what he tried to do was create one and create a situation where maybe he would never have to feel hurt and pain again. But instead of dealing with his issues and looking at where this came from, he stuffs them, buries them, and tries to create kind of a fantasy, a way to survive and get through life. But of course, anytime you create a fantasy, I kind of share it, eventually it brings you back to reality. If you can't make adjustments, you're in trouble. And so the bottom line is, he then feels rejected again. All the feelings start coming up, and he tries somehow to get it under control. That's why I talk a lot about control when it comes to relationships. She, on the other hand, feels bad for him, but at the same time, she wants to move on. So she wants to move forward. It's almost like she has remained a child herself for a long period of time, and now she's awakening. She's starting to awaken. So she has to make changes in her life, and thank God she had help in doing that, because if she didn't have help, she never would have made the changes. And so literally, in reality, it comes down to, when it comes to our own personal self, and we're taught this in recovery. The ultimate relationship we have in our life is the one that we have with ourselves. When I published my book, my first book on relationships, The Gifts of Life, I spend the whole entire second chapter in the book talking about how to develop a healthy relationship with yourself as a person. Then in the third chapter, I talk about how to bring that to others. In our 12-step program, the founders had a lot of wisdom. You'll notice when they put the steps together, the first 11 steps are for us to work on ourselves. Then, having done your own work, the 12th says, by your example and by the way you live your life, you carry the message to others. Now, we can take this to a lot of different areas in our life. I'll go back to my own story. I came through a structure, the priesthood, seminary, 32 years in total, and literally, I was living in what I call a cocoon. I was the caterpillar that wasn't ready to become a butterfly yet. So I was still stuck and trapped. But see, I didn't even know I was trapped for a long period of time. I was like her in many ways. I was Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, did everything everybody else wanted me to do. I had to make sure I followed all the rules. And yet there was a part of me deep inside that was rebelling. There's a part of me that wanted to make change. But every time I felt that part and got in touch with it, I used to get a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and a lot of worry. And so I tried to stay in my safe little world because I was scared to move forward. And I thank God in very many ways for a therapist that helped me. In fact, I have a photograph of him hanging on my wall in my office. I always look at it as a reminder. God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore. So I put that up there in his memory. Thank God I had somebody who navigated with me to get me through this process. I never could have done it on my own. I was too scared. See, so many times we're scared of change. We're scared of really looking at ourselves and finding out who we really are. And I find it interesting because I told you this before. When I was in the hospital with a nervous breakdown, the doctor said to me, even though I was a priest, he said, Vince, you're spiritually dead. You have no idea who you are. You have no sense of yourself at all. And I couldn't get that. It took me a while to finally break that barrier. And I have a lot of gratitude today, but making that change was scary. Because sometimes it's safer to stay in the situation that you're in than to make changes to something new. Because I think about it for a couple of minutes when I was in the priesthood, it was a very comfortable place to be, even though I really was a rebel while I was there. But it was a very comfortable place to be. They paid all your bills. They paid for your education. They gave you a car. They gave you a housekeeper who cooked your meals every day, washed your clothes, made your bed. It was like having, a built-in wife, I guess, I what you want to call it, without benefits, of course. So the bottom line was, it was scary. And so the other concept was that leave that world, that comfortable world. That's why I use the example of the caterpillar and the butterfly. To become a butterfly meant I had to go out of the cocoon and make a change. If I didn't have help doing that, I never could have done it. And to me, it was the greatest gift God had given me were guides and people and recovery to help me break that barrier and move forward with my life. And I realize today, making changes and moving to a new direction in life is scary. I use the example in my book in my third chapter, and I want to share it with you. So I'm probably going to need a couple of volunteers. Don't get nervous, because on Zoom, you really can't do this, but, and so we'll pick on Howie tonight, not a problem. Okay. So we'll get Howie, and let me see, I'll find another nice victim in here I can pick on. How about Colleen, you want to help me out here? Okay. So it'll be you and Howie, we'll take care of it. So I want to visualize something. Visualize the two of you together, leaning into each other this way. You're dependent on him, he's dependent on you. If you happen to leave, you're going to fall. If he leaves, you're going to fall. You're trapped. Now visualize the two of you back to back to each other. I guess I can do this. Back to back to each other, which means you have no eye contact. You're functional. You go through rituals every day, and you get jobs done. You go to work, you make money, you do all that stuff. It's all external. There's no internal, there's no intimacy, there's no closeness. And so you just kind of go through the ritual until the undertaker shows up. It's part of the journey that you're on. But the healthy scenario is we have two independent individuals. We have Colleen and Howie. And watch. Colleen has a totally independent life. She's a person totally to herself. She has a circle of friends, people she interacts with. Howie is an independent person. He has a sense of friends, people. You might not like some of his friends. He might not like some of yours. That's okay. But you have mutual friends together. But you have eye contact, yes, space, but eye contact. So you can choose to spend time together, or you can choose not to. You have choices. That's called responsibility and maturity. And that's one of the things we have to work on in relationships. And that's why I truly believe that transition and change is part of the journey in all relationships. I always tell the story. When I was a priest, I performed a lot of marriages. I also performed a few more since I have my license as a non-denominational minister now, so I still do some weddings. But I always got a kick out of this. I have two young people standing in front of me, and they say to me, I promise to love you the way I love you today to the day I die. I have to shoot them before they leave the altar. The minute they turn around and walk down the aisle, it's already changed. And as they go on, even they go through the honeymoon, it's a nice fantasy, it's wonderful, but then this thing called reality steps in. And reality involves adjustment. And people have a hard time going from fantasy into reality, into responsibility, and into adjustment. Then the invaders come along. They're called children, by the way. And all of a sudden, everything changes again. You know, it's all that crazy fantasy we have. What happened to it? Well, you might have little interludes of it, but in reality, things are changing. Then things like age takes place. Then these grandkids, these kids, you go from being a parent to a grandparent, then to a great-grandparent, right, Kathy? You begin to develop all different areas of your life. And as a result, then, you know what happens? You got to keep changing. I look at my grandkids, you know, and I remember when they were like this big. Now, like I put a brick on top of their head, I try to keep them from growing. My granddaughter works for us as Starting Point. She's 22 years old. You know, my God, how'd that happen? She used to come to Starting Point and go in my office. I had pillows in my office, and she had pillow fights with me in the office. Now, she's running the damn office. It's scary, man, I'm telling you. But the thing is, growth is part of life. Change is part of life. Things I could do years ago, I can't do now. The other day, Monday, I brought my lawnmower in to get serviced. And it took two of us to lift it up and put it into the car, the trunk. When I got to the service place, I had to have a little bit of humility and go down and ask the guy and say, I really can't lift that by myself anymore. Can you lift it out of the car? So this 26-year-old came outside with me, opened the trunk, picked it up like it was a piece of nothing, and put it down. And I stood there, and my eyes were rolling. I said, I remember when I used to be able to do that. If I did it now, I'd have some physical problems. See how it works? And so you have to be able to adjust. So I've created a new spiritual word in my life. I've created the word adjustment. To me, adjustment is a powerful spiritual word because every time in life we're going through the process of adjusting. Now, I was joking the other day how we can relate to this. I was joking the other day because I'm always quoting from the elders. And then I realized something. They're all dead. I'm the elder. How'd that happen? It's totally amazing. It's scary. All of a sudden now, you're moving into a whole different direction in your life. Even the patriarch of my family now, that's scary as hell. I was telling Loretta and my wife the other day, when I here at Holiday City where I live, I helped a group of people build a Veterans Memorial. We have a beautiful memorial out there, and we have a plaque, the names of the people that were involved in the building of it. And there were 14 of us that took part in putting that memorial together. I was out there saying a prayer at it the other day. I looked at the plaque and I said, oh my God, there's only two of us still alive from the year 2000. Where'd they go? They're not here anymore. And the other one that's still alive is a lot older than me. So I guess I'm the youngster in that crowd. But I look at this and you look at life, how relationships, they change constantly. New directions move into your life. And that's why it's so important. I want to emphasize this to break that bond of codependency. I can very easily find a place to hide. A relationship is a great place to hide. I can find a place to hide and I can kind of lock myself there for a long period of time. And I can stay there. Or I have to be able to come to that moment in my life where I want to be able to make a change and move on in a new direction. So I really believe in something very powerful now. You have to always, always, always be in the process of growing. Please don't ever be done. You learn from things around you. Relationships are supposed to be the gifts of life. They're supposed to be people that come into your life to help you to grow. That's why I believe in something very strongly today when I talk about the 12th step in our program. By the way you live your life, you talk and speak to others, not by what you say, but by the energy coming out of you. I've often said this. You heard me say it before. You can't fool children and pets. They're powerful people. They don't hear a word that you say, but they can feel the energy coming out of you. They know if you love them and you care about them. They know they want to be close to you. Pets are very powerful in this way. And you realize that over and over again in life because they can pick up energy, not words. And I believe that in recovery, that we live our recovery by the way we live our life. And if you truly do work on yourself and you truly work on being healthy, you attract healthy people to be in your life. But if you truly want to live back in that caterpillar stage, then basically you'll attract more caterpillars. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm more of a butterfly today. At least I'm getting there anyway. Wings are a little tired, but I'm getting there. But the concept is I'm learning how to enjoy life and celebrate life today. I'm learning how to make changes in life. I was talking the other day. My wife and I have not been to a restaurant in 1 year. And so last Friday, we went out to go to a restaurant. Went to our local diner. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was nervous. I'm 81 years old. I'm nervous to go to a diner. What's going on here? I used to hang out at the Melrose Diner. Now I'm nervous to go to a diner. I walked in, and all of a sudden, I ordered food. They brought this food. It was gigantic. I've been living home, eating nice little meals, working my eating disorder program. Things are real well. They put enough food in front of me for the last 3 days. My wife and I ate the soup. packed the rest of it up, and went home. And our meals were taken care of for the next 3 days. See how things have changed? Here comes adjustment again to adjust to another way of life. And it's almost like even in this pandemic, you can become very comfortable in your little cocoon. And many of us have gotten that way. But now we have to kind of branch out. Now, I agree, we're not going to go back to like it was before. There will be new normals. We have to be open to new normals. It really feels good to be back in the office 3 days a week. But at times, sometimes I get nervous about that too. But I'm glad I'm there because I can make Loretta nervous. It's fantastic, so it's not a problem. I love driving her nuts. But the good part about it is I'm getting back into the swing of things again. And my daughter was yelling at me the other day, and she said, "When are you going to come and visit us?" They're in Montana. I said, "Well, right now we'll visit on Zoom." I said, "I don't know when I'm going to make that trip yet. I'm getting there. I got vaccinated, all that kind of stuff. So we'll take a chance. We'll move forward a little bit at a time." So I said to my daughter, "I'll tell you what, before we come to Montana, how about if I just take a ride down the shore? Okay? Walk on the boardwalk." And then my wife and I were talking about my birthday in May. How about if we go and do a 2 or 3 day trip down the shore? So we'll work on the shore for a couple of months. Okay? Because if we get scared, we can drive back home. It's kind of nice. So a little bit at a time, we start the process. We build new normals, move in new directions, and build relationships with self and others in a new way. I also believe that Zoom has been a godsend. And that's why even at starting point, we set 55-inch TVs in our group rooms so people can, if they do come back, they can still do Zoom. I went to my 12-step meeting earlier tonight, and guess what? I have people in my home group on Monday nights that are from California, Texas, Maryland, and New Hampshire. And they said to us, "If you guys go back in, don't forget us." They've been with us for a year. No, we're not going to forget them. And so we're going to have to learn a new way of doing meetings. We have 2 groups at our place right now, our AA group and our SA group. And they already have started. They're doing Zoom and meetings at the same time. And it's amazing how it's working really well. So it's a process. Relationships are a process. So we have to look at building personal relations with other human beings, with our children, even with changes in life and history as we go through it. It's all part of a growth process we have to go through. And that's why I love talking about this, because I really believe that so many of us are codependents. We relegated ourselves to playing certain roles. And next week, I'll talk about the roles of codependency that many of us have played for a long period of time. For years, I played the family hero. Had no life of my own. Everybody else, thought I was a cat's meow. Until you make a change, then people get nervous. So I have a formula now I operate on. If you do make a change in your life, try to follow this formula. 25% of the people will like your change. 25% will hate it. And 50% won't give a damn one way or the other. And in 2 weeks, you'll be old news. Isn't that amazing? And yet, I know me because I have an Italian disease called guilt, fear, and worry. So I'll basically beat myself up for that period of time, just like many of us will, as we go through transition and change. And do me a favor, you're never done. You're never done. You're always a process. As long as you walk on this earth, you're still moving. And so I wanted to share this tonight about relationships and codependency, and we'll kind of put it together with roles of codependency next week. And then I'll spend 4 weeks on the recovery process and how it works. So we'll get excited and work on that, and we'll see where it goes. Okay? So I'm going to kind of close tonight with a prayer. And if we can get it to work, we're doing something different. We took a photograph of our memorial wall at Starting Point, and we're going to try to put it up, but right now we don't have it up yet. So I'm going to put it up while I'm doing the prayer. No, having trouble, Loretta?
Yes, just give me 1 second.
We're experimenting, guys. Let's see
How about now? Did I get it?
you got it. Beautiful.
There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah, I wanted to put that up tonight as I do the closing prayer because one of the traditions I started at Starting Point was to do a prayer service every Wednesday at the memorial wall. And you can't see the whole entire wall back here. The back part is hidden. We couldn't get the whole thing in one shot. But the beautiful part about it is it starts with a photograph of Dr. Bob, of Dr. Bob and Bill W. And these are all of our counselors that have left us. And then all these people have been part of our journey at Starting Point. Close to 820 of them. And so they're our family. And I have 5 more names here I have to put up on the wall. And tomorrow I'm doing a prayer service to put up a couple of plaques for people tomorrow. And so I want to show that to you and have that be part of our prayer, because I never want to forget those people that are very special and part of our journey of life. And you also see our 55-inch screen. We got our room ready for meetings now. And you notice the chairs are distanced. Joe and I took a measuring thing and measured everything and marked the floors. So we have fun doing it. Okay, let us pray. God, we come before you tonight in a very special way. We come before you in memory. We come before you to say thank you in gratitude, humility, and love. Thank you for all the people that are part of the journey of our life. Thank you for the gift of life, for the gift of love. Teach me and each one of us deep down inside with your help and guidance to be able to become people of love, to share the gift that we have within us with others. We also are grateful for the many people who have passed before us, for all those who have touched our lives. They are all our helpers and people that have helped us through the journey. I want to say thank you to them, for they are our guardian angels today. We never want to forget them and forget their memories. And that's why, in a special way, we offer a prayer in memory of them on a regular basis. God, you are so beautiful and so wonderful. You have given us so many gifts. Teach us not to take them for granted, but to honor them, to honor our life on this earth. And with your help, your guidance, and your direction, teach us to know we can't do it alone. We belong to each other. We're all part of your family. We're all connected to each other. So God, please walk with us and guide us on our journey each and every day of our life. And we ask and we pray this every day in your name. Amen. Okay. I'm going to ask all of you now, if I can, there you are, you're back. Okay. You can unmute yourself and we'll close with the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us
to accept everything
cannot
cannot
change,
the
the
courage
to change
things
everything
we
we
can,
and
the wisdom to God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.